Hello, my name is Xavier Brown, and I will be talking about the story of Atari. Um, the story of Atari is a long one to be exact. The former history of Atari, as we know it, is long gone. The ownership rights for Atari have changed throughout multiple years, especially like the rights for the company as a whole and the video game rights. In 1998, Hasbro Interactive acquired all Atari Corporation related from JST, and Infogame Entertainment bought Hasbro Interactive, renaming it Infogrames Interactive. Infogrames Interactive is now in rights to publish Atari brand titles. Wade Rosen is the current CEO for Atari. Atari still makes its headways with games and products. The development for Atari over the past couple of years have allowed them to get their previous titles, such as Pong, Asteroids, and make them better with the technology that we have now, and also more so just to refurbish all the past titles just for old fans who still love the company and love the game. They're making their way with that, and also their recent endeavors have gone online in terms of business and consumer hardware and blockchain. They have investors in their new web design and Atari X, which is a reinforcement of blockchain technology that is coming here soon. It should be pretty big for Atari in terms of their business moves. Atari does have some competitors in terms of their different streams of marketing with games and products. Their top competitors are Activision, Zynga, and Frontier. All three of these competitors, in their own nature, are kind of just like parts of Atari. So while they are their primary competitors, Atari is very good at like consistently staying to themselves and kind of like what they're looking for. So, Activision and Zynga and Frontier are all competitors, but at the same time, I would say Activision is probably the biggest one that is head to head in terms of like games, and that's kind of like what Atari is founded on, is gaming. So, besides that, I would say Atari is pretty good staying in their own lane in terms of competition. Atari, of course, was founded in 1972 by Nolan Bunchell and Ted Dabney. The game Atari actually means, it's from a Japanese saying, means about to win. Video game cabinets and home computer consoles, such as video game consoles too, were Atari's main focus as they expanded throughout the years. It's kind of known among game users that Atari did not have the patent for it until it was officially released, which was very bad, which allowed companies to get access to the game and use it for their own. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak also worked for Atari before they left to work on Apple computers. Atari is, basically the first company to come out with video game arcade cabinets with the release of Pong. They also have released the following systems: Atari 2600, 52,000, or 5200, my fault. Atari Lynx, Atari Jaguar, and the Atari ST. Now, if I were Atari and I could go back in time, the things I would do for an alternate timeline to better succeed Atari, or just maybe things I feel like they should have done. Probably with the way things were going until 1983, I probably would have wanted Atari to get as much as quality control in their titles, so third party companies can really just do what they want. It would really remove like the shovelware of games that really just were just out, not really good for the time. So it would have took that just lack of unnecessary gaming, or just like kind of purposeless gaming, away from Atari, and just would have just focused them on the 2600. With that being said, and with their quality control and their titles, I feel like if Atari had released, if they, at the time, I don't know what games specifically they could have released, but if they had also just focused on how the Atari 2600 was doing, and then delayed, not even delayed it, but just didn't even make the 5200, and focused on the next generation, which would be like the 7800. I feel like Atari could have maybe came out with a couple exclusive games just for the system itself, and would also go to break records in the console wars. I feel like they would have crushed numbers over the NES and the Master System if they had released the 7800 when it was supposed to release, with its focus not being on the 5200 and all the time that it was spent into that. Jack Trammell would have also looked into the documents and paid the developers for before he obtained Atari from them, because that was kind of a big ordeal in terms of developers which he had on his roster, and would probably could have made them a better company at the end. With that being said, the previous and current staff of Atari I would keep, and also broaden my specs to look for more potential in terms of a larger pool of talent, looking for Atari as the release of the Atari 7800 would most likely be successful and dominate the market. Atari would then try to headline Atari ST just to get into a broader approach for marketing and headlining for consoles. Also, getting into home consoles, being the first does take some time for people and the public to adjust, but when they do, they will get on. So I feel like the Atari ST would be a frontline market if we still had all the previous developers who were for the company and would want to be for the company. The Atari ST would release in 1985 and would kind of be in the middle way of video gaming and home computing. So this is the separation that Atari is, the first step of Atari separation in terms of staying to themselves as a company, getting out of the competitive market, more so just trying to find its purpose in its titles and quality control, and the status of what Atari has done in the past right now for this alternate timeline has caused them unlimited success forever. So that being said, the Atari ST is really just their gateway to get into home computing. With that being said, Atari will make one last gain in the console market with the Atari Jaguar. Now, the Atari Jaguar is Atari's third console at this point. With the success of the ST, Atari's kind of just been underground and have released the Atari Jaguar as ahead of its time in the new generation. I believe the 5th generation console war. So it's gonna beat the PlayStation 2 and also the Nintendo 64. So that's gonna be a big thing for Atari. This will be its last video game console, as the Atari ST is kind of just like its home computer whenever they do make updates on that. The Atari Jaguar, of course, will have the built-in CD player format with the 32-bit GPU and 64 CPU. The controller has a 16-bit CPU, so at this time the developers would have been consistent in wanting to make a better console for the market, so they would have made a use of all this advanced technology for the moment. In this alternative status of what the company has, we have some foundation in home computers, and the Atari Jaguar was first in the 5th generation console wars. So that being said, it's kind of like our gateway to leave, especially whenever the Wii U comes out by Nintendo in 2006, only like 5 years after we have released the Jaguar, and it's different versions. By this point, the Atari Seek is an idea that did come out, but as publishers, we'll always say, or just companies, this is the final system that we will put out. So the Atari Seek did come out eventually to compete with the Nintendo Wii and the PlayStation 2, and it really just was a staple for the company in terms of what we were looking for to just in itself seek out what the possibilities for Atari were. The Atari Seek was just really a great console that really just stayed on the par with the way things were going for the time. It was still a local console, for just interactive gaming. Not really too much family console gaming going on, so the Atari Seek really just stayed to itself. At the same time, the Atari Seek was also the game to first start going back into our retained titles that we have got rights to, back then. So the Atari is kind of really just now officially getting out of the video game world and kind of just refraining on its basis of what it was founded on and trying to aspire it into new business. Our competitors, we've had multiple throughout the years, but Atari has always stayed strong into what we wanted to do for the competition. Honorable mentions of competitions, the GameCube, PlayStation 2, the first PlayStation, and the 64. The release of Omega by Commodore, which was Tremol's what he founded before he owned Atari. They released their competition against Atari ST, but we still away them in sales, which was great. The Atari Seek, with that being our last system, and the Wii U making gateway for the future. The market was in light as the PlayStation had delays and was just not really there, and Microsoft is not making any gaming systems, so it's really just Nintendo and Atari. But since we are just letting Nintendo have its reign in the console gaming world, we're just going to focus on entertainment and licensing and expanding outside the video game market. So I'm expecting within 5 years that we probably stop making video games and computers and consoles. Probably won't make any new more games. We probably just focus on licensing, blockchain, consumer hardware, and the value of our previous models, kind of just upping those. And that's what the fans have really engaged in, because it's never really lost its worth over the years. So Atari holds to be celebrated as one of the most iconic brands out of all time. So for that being said, that is my presentation about the company of Atari, and also my alternate versions of what the company could bring if it had made different adjustments. Or this is also my input on what I would do with Atari if it were mine. Thank you.